I am not a licensed therapist or psychologist, nor am I fit to give proper advice to any topic. Take my words with a grain of salt to form your own reflections. Reading the comments is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to the show where I'm bold enough to talk about my shit opinion on topics I know nothing about. As always, feel free to leave your topics in the inbox below, and thanks for tuning in. Why are so many people afraid to be alone with themselves/their thoughts? Some, to the point of hanging out with people they don't even like to avoid having to sit in silence and look inside. I thought this one was interesting just because I hear it so much. I used to be in agreement with trying to avoid thinking at all. In my early teens, I started thinking about real world thoughts, just trying to get a grasp of how I should think, what should happen when I do think, what is happening around me, with all the hormones going around. I got to a point during COVID. I was roughly 15 to 16 during COVID. After sitting through so much time inside the house, just being alone in general, it got to the point where all I could do was sit there and think about things that I've done in the past or things I've been through. This really harsh self-reflecting. It was really agonizing, but it was for the better. I had maybe spent 2.5 months for 22 hours a day. I was laying in bed just sitting there talking to myself, which sounds horrible. It's pretty much being in a white padded room and that's all you can do, because that's what it felt like. It's all I could do. It's all I depended on, was being able to talk to myself and learning how to talk to myself. And I developed strategies to be able to control my thoughts in a better manner. And I became a lot more self-aware. I was able to really break down, here's my life so far, here's the experiences I've learned, here's what I can get out of them, and how certain people acted towards me growing up, and where I can see their point of view. It was really, really enlightening. Don't get me wrong. It was probably the most painful time in my life. And that's pretty scary when you're sitting there comfortable in a bed and you can be in the most agonizing pain known to man. With such harsh self-reflection, I was able to get to a point where I liked being able to think. And I liked being able to be alone, because then I could sit there, regain my thoughts, and move forward. And even to today, I think that is the ideal situation, with just being able to sit down every day, even giving yourself like an hour to 30 minutes. Not that I do this anymore, but I should. Just being able to give yourself an hour and 30 minutes, or just hour to 30 minutes of time to just sit there, decompress, figure out what happened today, what you can learn from it, and what you can do moving forward, and what you want to plan moving forward. Giving yourself that time could be really important for just even mental growth in general. I went from being really behind all my life, I guess mentally and maturely, to being ahead of all my colleagues around me from my 14th to 16th birthday, I would like to say. Not that there wasn't individuals I couldn't relate with still, but there was often, that was the transition from me being like, hey, I really like my whatever friends I make, but I can relate more to adults at this point, you know. The independence came along through there too. The leadership came through there too. So it was a really harsh growing period there around from 15 to 16. As I got a little bit older, when I turned 20, I, recently went through some events that, I've never gone through before, that have never hurt as much before. It was awful. I came out of a situation where I was with this individual for 2.5 years. And it was so mentally toxic that it came to the point where, even going into my new job after returning back to my mom's house and just, trying to go back to the basics a little bit with where I was at, it got to the point where I would even go into work and I couldn't bear to stand my thoughts. I would literally sit there and strangle myself at work, trying to get some of the thoughts out of my head. I hated the fact that I became delusional. I became another person. Over time, I'm like after 3 or 4 months of decompressing and getting out of this situation or this relationship, I was sitting there thinking, wow, where have I been? Why have I been locked up? Where did that 15-year-old self go? Sometimes you don't even realize when you lose yourself. And that's really harsh even when you have time to yourself to sit there and talk to yourself. It can be unhealthy to give yourself too much time and feed into your own delusions. You got to be willing to be open-minded and look at yourself in a judgmental way, but keeping your self-confidence. So I went from being afraid to being in their own thoughts to mastering being in my own thoughts, back to not being able to handle it as an adult, because everything you do when you get to adulthood gets a lot more harsh, a lot more real, a lot more painful. You're not kids anymore. You know better about a lot of things. Things are just a little bit more deeper. So going from that and healing from that over the past, 2 years or so, I've been able to get to the point where I can be happy with what I think and be able to go in, my car to work and not have to have music on or whatever. I think it's been getting better, and I've been constantly striving for the point I was at when I was 15, but that was also due to circumstances that I could not control, like COVID. It put us all inside, it forced us to be able to be in a position like that. And when you don't have a lot of friends in general, the only socialization I got was on my weekends. I couldn't get along with my parents, so I'd stay in my room for however long. Anytime I went out, I felt like I was ridiculed. I felt like I was alone. I felt, so it's almost like from 17 to 20, I wish I still had enough time throughout the year that I was forced to be alone. I was forced to be able to sit there in a room and do absolutely nothing. Because at least I would be able to be so mentally strong that anything that came my way, I would feel confident. I feel like I know who I am at this time, what I'm going through, what phase I'm going through, and what I can learn moving forward without, jeopardizing my future. It gets to the point where, you just get busier. You just get so damn busy the older you get. And that's nothing new. I mean, that everybody knows that in general. When you get so damn busy and you don't have time for yourself, or God forbid you have kids at a young age, there's just absolutely no way for you to recover yourself. You'd have to really have a good partner or really have a good support system. In circumstances where you're so damn busy, you just have to make time for yourself, and that's harsh, especially when you don't get enough sleep. You don't have enough time to do this one thing that's so important. It gets rough. I think in general, people have the mindset that if they don't think about something, it doesn't exist. So that embarrassment, that mistake, that regret, that horrible thing you did or you think you did to that one person or group of people, or that embarrassment on that stage or whatever, for some reason, it's built into us through media and like television and movies and just in general conversation that we overhear with our parents and our siblings, that it's the worst thing in the world to go through. You can't have embarrassment. You can't have regrets. You can't have the pain of learning and growing as a child. It's like we're raised to think that once you start getting to the point where you don't care what people think, you're out of the situation and out of the relationships and out of the friend groups and environments that you're in that remind you of such things in the past, then you become a lot more willing to adapt to your thoughts. It's mainly to avoid the past, I suppose, or mainly to avoid the pressure of a future, with parents in college and partners and living up to what you want to be for them, with their image and what they expect out of you. It can be a million things. It can even be a friend, even just becoming a better friend. I want to say, in general, I think everybody should put themselves in situations where they have to think. If you're constantly avoiding thinking, you're not going to be able to handle the moments where you can't think. Sometimes you just get bogged up and you can't think of a single thing, and that's a great feeling and all, but I much prefer being able to grow as a person and be able to talk to yourself. being able to create a second self of you in your head to be able to talk to be able to ask questions, to be able to ask how they're doing, and doing that a little bit each day. I even think talking out loud is better. And most people think that's crazy, but I think it's the best, one of the most healthiest habits you can possibly have is talking to yourself. I get hanging out with people to avoid silence. I get listening to music all the time to avoid silence. But in no world can I see it being healthy. You're just avoiding and pushing and pushing. You're not facing any of your problems. And yes, some of those problems could be so severe, traumatic, awful. But until you sit there, get in a situation where you can sit there and just think about what happened and say, hey, this really hurt. I just got this random spike of this random moment. This hurt. I forgive myself and I accept that I did this regardless of reason, or I accept that this happened to me regardless of reason. And then you relive the moment one more time, but without the pain. That's what's helped me over the past year, is being able to think of all those embarrassments, think of all those regrets, think of all those problems that I've grown, past from, think of all those names I've been called. Think that it's endless with the amount of things you think of that torture you. And I sit there and when I get those spikes and those random moments where I'm like, fuck, kill myself, I try and grasp it, remember it, focus on forgiving myself for it, for whatever happened, even if I'm not at fault, accept that it happened, and then relive the moment in slow motion. I don't know why, but that's been able to tell my mind, hey, I've accepted and forgiven this. This doesn't work on me anymore. You can't throw this curveball at me anymore. I can relive it at any point in time and remember that this doesn't hurt. And I think being able to do that and working on that over the past 6 months or so has helped me tremendously. I'm assuming when I was 15, I went through enough things to be able to get through what I did. I don't think I was at where I'm at now, where you can just think through it. You got to be able to strategically go through your thoughts and create a system that works for you. And it's not impossible. It's really not. It sounds hard, very hard, but it's so possible for everybody. And I think anybody, even with mental disorders that inhabit you, you can get through that so easily if you just put your mind to it. And that's as simple as that. Your brain is a muscle to be trained. There is nothing you can't possibly work through. The more you train your brain, the more you talk to yourself, the more you work through yourself. To say that a lot of people are afraid, I'd 100% agree. I think I would say more people are generally afraid to be alone than people that aren't. But I would like to challenge many people to be able to go through their car drive, like their big long hour car drive, or their way to work or their way home in silence. I've learned to enjoy silence a lot more. When you wake up, you'll start noticing you have music playing or whatever from your dream, or a music stuck in your head in your dream. In the morning, first thing as you wake up, it's so cloudy, it's so loud, it's so all over the place. The less you listen to music and the more you listen to yourself, the less you wake up with all this commotion going on in your head. You'll wake up and it's a clean slate. And I think that would help a lot of people move to a better direction. Let me know what y'all think is some ways to cope with this problem. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there and have a wonderful day.